I can okay. See if it's streaming or not. I don't know.
Tommy,
That
is
was
this a video thing or a not video thing?
it's a non-video thing. You can't. You'll see me, but we'll hear you
Okay,
because
good.
I'm in the studio. But I need to see what it looks like. Hopefully, it's live. I won't be able to tell until people see it live. It's only going to be on YouTube,
Okay.
and then we can ask questions, and hopefully people will chat, and I'll be able to ask questions. I see me. All right.
I
I'm
see
live.
Fate of Legends After Dark, and I see it as it's going to happen on May 18th.
Yeah, I don't know how to.
That's a separate thing. I see it live. I see Tommy.
Okay.
I know how to. I don't know how to
Oh,
fix
okay.
that, but
I can also hear Keith on stream.
you can hear Keith on stream.
Okay, good. Well, then I'll turn my.
I can.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay, hi everybody.
Hi.
It's me on stream.
All right.
Keith's voice is broadcasting through YouTube.
Keith's voice is broadcasting through YouTube. Yes.
Is my voice?
I'm sponsored by YouTube.
Yep.
Is my voice coming through?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, hi.
Isn't that the
Okay.
It
intention?
shouldn't be specific to a person. It should be everybody or nobody. So.
Yeah, and Jared Mitz says can see it and hear it. So you can see me and you can hear Keith and Elisa and Devin in here right now, which is good. But yeah, so this is we'll give it a second to queue up. Sorry. Oh, that's me talking. No, I want to be quiet. There we go. I want me to be quiet. There we go. Yeah, so this is I don't know, I just thought we could talk a bit about the about it.
Cool.
So right now, you guys talk for a second. I'm going to deconnect for a sec just to put the TV to turn it back my way so I can see the chat and then I can ask questions and stuff. And then I'll be right back. But you guys keep talking.
Well, I gotta say, it's great being here. How long ago did we do this? Was it in April?
It was in January.
No, January was the first one. Destiny of
No.
Worlds.
January was the first one. This one was.
I feel April.
It was January.
So then, when was Destiny of Worlds in your
That was
accounting?
like last April or May. Then April or May before that. I definitely know that it was January. Like
All right. I
100%.
believe you. I'm just.
First of all, I was traveling nonstop from like March through August for convention work, so I know it was in April. But also there were just things that were going on in my life that I totally remember.
All
It
right,
was
all right. Then I totally believe you. Anyhow, it is so. It has been an even longer while, is what we're saying.
Yeah, it's been a while.
A long time.
Well, hold on. Yeah, so we filmed this Was it January?
It was January.
I have March 19th and 20th as the last time that I have a big D&D stream marked down.
Yeah, so March 19th was when we filmed Chris. Because we shot in January with the rest of the crew, and then March is when we shot with Chris and Browery and all those guys, the second crew, which you'll see in episode 3.
All right, fair enough. So Tommy, thanks for bringing us all together for this.
Yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to try this After Dark chat. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but for no other reason than it's just an excuse for us to hang out again. I mean, hello.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so if anybody's got any questions, I see some people are in here chatting saying, excellent first episode. Glad I saw that there was a wrap up. Yep. I'll have it more. I meant to come down and test this out during the show, but I'm not going to lie. I actually got enwrapped in it. I was actually watching the show and have it because it's been so long since we've done it that I actually watched the show and I was just into it. I was like, I'm watching it now, and I was getting into the nuances, and I don't actually remember filming it. That's the best part. I was like an existential review. So,
wait, you filmed it? Nobody told me it was being filmed.
Yeah.
No.
Right. But it was that was a good show. Like it, she was taking control of the situation there.
Yeah.
And every episode I think's got their got their sort of like flavor tone. I know the next one, no spoilers, but I know that the next episode, for the first half anyway, Luke owns it, which is crazy.
Definitely my
I do
favorite.
remember that episode very well, actually.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to see that. And I mean, basically, it was so amazing to just sort of be there as it was unfolding. I
Yes.
definitely look forward to being able to actually absorb it more fully. As an observer.
We'll have to do a new drinking game for that one, and it's as our jaws drop. For every inch our jaws drop, we have to take a shot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's true
no,
because again, my pendant wasn't falling out as much. We need new drinking games.
that's true. And Keith, of course, we know which episode you get the stardom from, which
Yes.
is going to be amazing, and I'm very excited for
Yep.
that awesome
Yep.
adventure.
Every episode, I believe, is what you're saying, and you're right. Yes, I do. Um,
Uh, so how this is going to lay out is we've got obviously episode 2 is next week in its standard format, and then episode 3 the week
then
later.
we're going to do episode 4 and then 3. But
No.
then
Interesting.
No, but episode 3 the week after, it's a double header, so it's actually a 3.5-hour episode.
Oh.
Because it has, which you guys haven't seen yet, so it'd be kind of fun to see what you think of this, because it's a very different tone of group playing. But you have my original group of players, 2 of my original players that I played with way back in the 90s, who created this world with me, like we're there. I play with them. That's when things happen. So you'll see something. We got to remember to stop talking about spoilers here, but there will be a division of the party, and I will be off with the OG players, and you get the. So it's interesting how it was coming together, because for me to edit this, I thought they were going to be separate episodes, but then when I was cutting them back and forth, and it's like we cut to like party A doing their thing, and then the GM says like meanwhile, and then we cut to party B, and it's a really cool dual episode, but it is a 3.5-hour slog. So we're gonna, it's gonna be a lot more time than the hour and a half we've crushed out tonight. And then 4 and 5 are back to like regularly scheduled program, and then episode 6 we have another split episode, which is I think really really cool to watch. And yeah, it's an emotional show, man. It's good. This first episode read really well. I'm very excited.
Excellent.
It was all me.
But yeah. So I
it
mean,
was.
if you guys,
I'm totally kidding.
right? If anyone's watching has any questions for the folks that are here, otherwise we're just gonna chat for a little bit. Split episodes. Yes. So split episodes means that we were gonna split it into episode 3 and 4, but it was so good when I was editing it. I was cutting them together to find where the cut points were, and it just looked so good together. I had to just kind of cut it as one large episode. But it is a little interesting and jarring because it cuts to the same backdrops, but there's different people.
And my hair's different.
yes, but I mean, it's not like there's a proper transition. There's a proper like meanwhile, and then now we're here, and the dungeon master kind of collects it together. But it's like you see the party, you cut to the dungeon master, you cut back, and it's a different party. It's like they polymorphed, but it's pretty good. I think it'll be fun.
I think
And
episode
then
3 is probably one of my favorites, so I'll be looking forward to that.
yeah, it'll be neat to see how Elisa and Keith and all that. See, if you guys think you're the back of the bus, you got to see these guys play. It's a different world entirely. But just for those watching, we decided to do that because we really wanted to get an homage to some of these characters into the world. And then, of course, in the final episode, my
Alex,
wife.
Don't do the spoiler.
Oh, what?
Don't give too many spoilers to all these folks.
No, but but I
come
mean, it's
on.
going to be in the title sequence. My wife plays D&D, and it's her first.
Oh, okay.
It's her first 5e game. She's played old school, and she's a big Cthulhu player. But this was
do that and on stream.
well,
And I say that because I'm playing in a ongoing campaign with Butra Gygax, who lives
Right.
So.
Well, I'll tell you, she's a type B very shy personality, so it was very interesting to watch her, come out of her shell on screen. Well, it's an
Nice.
interesting finale episode, and she's actually playing her character, which is Loholt's love interest in the story. So she's playing Roessa. So it's an interesting thing to see. And it'll be a fun final episode. But what people are just learning is that what's really weird, and I just found this out about Ray Stevens. I had no idea he had passed away. So I'm
What?
I'm watching Ahsoka. No, I'm sorry. I didn't know he was Dagonet in King Arthur
Oh
too.
yeah,
It
no, I
was.
knew that.
I'm
Yeah.
kind of clueless on this kind of stuff, and I'll get to the question in a second. It was so wild for me to watch Ahsoka and absolutely fall in love with Balin Skull, the character, and be like, I wonder where the show's going to take this guy. And I just saw a post on Facebook while I was in the airport waiting to come back from Essenspiel yesterday, and it was like this. They showed the picture of Balin Skull like forever immortalized as a Jedi or something, and I was like, huh? Right? And then I looked it up. I thought maybe he just died. No, he died in May, and I was like, holy cow! I didn't even know this. And so now watching the finale, which I did early this morning, it was a little more emotional. His final scenes, really emotional. But the reason why I bring this up is because the same thing happened in 2 weeks after we filmed the last section of Fatal Legends with the other crew. One of those players died, and it's like heavy. And so when we get to those episodes, I'm going to be a little more sullen because it's like even just mentioning him tonight in the scene when Adira first showed up, I was like, oh God, here we go. Turn on the faucets. So there was a question earlier. That was about the favorite part of the Amaria setting. And so, and then questions about the Kickstarter. So what was that, Devin?
Your favorite part of Amaria is a hell of a question for you.
Yeah, I mean the newer folks that are involved. Yeah, the newer folks that are involved probably have a much simpler answer because they're sort of like not as ingrained like it would be for me. It'd be like asking Keith, "What's your favorite part of Eberron?" It's like, "Oh well, let me look into the past like 30 years of my life."
Absolutely. But I'll say Chronomancy. I love Chronomancy.
I also love Chronomancy.
I said it first.
Yeah, it's late. Doesn't matter. I have a canonical Chronomancy character. Done.
Me too.
Oh.
No, okay, mine isn't canonical.
Well, it's canonic. It's just we don't have art for you yet, Vicky. So
We can both love Chronomancy. It's okay.
Okay, fair enough. But I'm going back in time to make sure I loved Chronomancy before. No, okay, never mind.
Not how that works, but it's okay.
So, my favorite part of Amaria is the Chronomancy.
It really is so good.
So Chronomancy's new to it, right? So there's always been like timey-wimey stuff, as Ed would call it, but there was a in the early days it was all about the Rennick Steel, it was all about the Rennick Knights, and so when it was redeveloped, when Devin and Adam got involved, and Kyle, we started working on it, and I just was obsessed with time travel and time stuff, but I was always ashamed on how some shows conquer time manipulation. And I really like Mercer's take on chronomancy in his book, but I thought maybe he was going a little too reserved with it, which is respectful in the end because if you think about it, it could get way out of control. But then this time around, I'm like, I think we need to really play with time, and so the fact that this entire world is built on built inside the shell of a temporal sphere just allows us to almost defy a whole bunch of fantasy rules and create new things. And so I think that's probably why I like Chronomancy so much in the world. But I mean, I love everything in there. And now we just added psionics in a super profound way. And the psionics are amazing. Devin, you're like super quiet. I don't know if it's because it's maybe the connection you have or.
No, that's because I was being quiet.
Oh, there we are.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
He's
Well,
just
you're
very thoughtful.
Devin. You're part of this. Why don't you answer? What is your favorite part of Amaria since you've been developing it for the last 2 years?
Lord.
The good answer is nothing really. I don't know.
Yeah, I get
Amaria.
paid to do this. I like the money I make, but that's about it.
You know what my favorite part about Amari is? It gives me my paycheck.
Well, not after that Kickstarter got canceled. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I would say it probably has to be genuinely, it's the fact that it is a godless realm.
This.
Because it is both frustrating and also very freeing at the same time, because it allows you to really dive into human psyche and boots on the ground, very bare bones type stories of idealization and what mortals are capable of without divine intervention. And I think that that's a really interesting thing that, especially in the realms of D&D, you don't really get to mess with a lot. And so I think
Wait, are
that's
you
one
saying
reason
it's a fantasy setting where gods don't manifest in the world? That's crazy. Who would do that?
I really like the.
There are homages. I think you scared him. You scared him into a hole, Keith.
Sorry. What I'm saying is that's one of my favorite parts of Amaria too.
It's very there's a lot of that influence from Eberron actually, because didn't Eberron have like there's deities in Eberron now, is there not?
No, Eberron, it's a similar thing. And Eberron, the point is that there is religion, there are clerics, but the gods do not manifest in the world, and we have no absolute proof that they exist beyond the fact that divine magic works.
Right, and that's the
So
big
it is
difference
the same
between
principle. Yeah. So I mean, it is the same principle that you don't have direct divine intervention. Any form of divine intervention has to come through a mortal medium.
the two.
Because exactly what Devin was saying, it's that point of it lets you explore faith. Basically, if the gods just exist, and this to me just comes down from Douglas Adams, if the gods just exist and can come and punch you in the nose, what is faith in that world?
Oh, interesting.
And so it's more like which sports team do you support than actually what do you believe in.
Yeah, that's
And
actually
so I
really
just
interesting.
and so I just think it's and Ed's not here obviously to speak for FR, but I mean I love like the Time of Troubles, I love the Iliad and the Trojan War, and all Greek mythology, but it is also interesting to be able to have worlds where you can explore stories that don't work in that kind of world. And what I love is I definitely had some point in early in the development of Eberron where I had people say to me, but wait a second, if the gods don't manifest in the world, why does anyone believe in them? And I really just was like, what world do you live in? Exactly.
Right?
I think the reason why Godless Realm was so important to me in the early days of Amaria's build out. Like I'm talking when I was a kid. See, I was raised Catholic, and I very at some point veered off of that dogmatic belief. But I've always been existential, and I've always had some sort of like hope for something outside of the realm of science per se. And so I've got some sort of like inner belief somewhere. I'm not even sure what that definition looks like yet. And I guess if anything, it's more pantheist than that. I believe that everyone's belief circles can and it should be validated in some capacity or form and not discriminated or hurt. And so I think the idea of it being a godless realm was more so exactly to allow people to manifest their characters in ways where their faith and their inner beliefs are what come out in your characters without having it being tied to, Baal or Loth or any of these giant monstrosities that control or strike fear or do these things. And I also really just did not want it's going to sound kind of weird considering I created, the Eltherian Empire is, essentially calling a spade is essentially a dictatorship,
Hmm.
army. But
Hmm.
I just did not want to have massive religious wars in my world
Yeah.
because we see so much of that shit in reality that I'm not happy about. I just didn't want to see that in Imaria. So,
Yeah. And the funny thing, just as long as we're generally chatting, is in
mhm,
some ways, Eberron's both the same and the reverse of that. And people have said to me like, well, if gods from Forgotten Realms showed up in Eberron, like what would people do? Wouldn't they freak out? Oh, would it break everything? And to me, what
mhm,
I'm saying is, they wouldn't actually register them as gods because their conception of what a god is
yeah.
much bigger and different than a thing you can punch in the nose. They'd just be like, that's not a god, that's like a big angel
Right.
or
I mean, like
something like that.
you
I would
can
also
punch.
Um,
imagine that it would be more of the same way as even like here on Earth when people say that they have seen God or they have seen an
mhm.
exist like proof of existence, whether it's something in their toast coming out of their toaster oven or any other type of like divine sight where it's like maybe people would believe them and maybe people wouldn't believe them and then
Mhm,
that
Yeah,
tests faith more. Like faith
right.
is tested when it can't be proven.
Right. And it also comes back to, for me, with
mhm,
Eberron, which I think sort of slides into what you're saying with Amaria, Tom. Certainly with Eberron, part of the idea was wanting the player characters, even at low levels, to really feel significant in the world. And part of that idea was saying there's not a safety net here.
that's right.
There's not, frankly, an Elminster who can step in and save the world if you can't. And, the gods are the biggest safety net, if you know what I'm saying. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
if there is a god of justice, then and they can actually appear in the world and punch someone, it sort of feels like I'm just a second level fighter. I'm not really that exciting.
Right. It's like, what can I do? Yeah, and that's why
Yeah,
even the Elder Dragons, when we were developing it, I really wanted to ensure that they weren't some worm that is just so huge and out of control that they are gods, and they essentially are
right.
kind of like the gods of the world, but they're gods of
But
the
not
world.
creepy at all.
Yeah, not at all creepy, and totally allow for personal freedoms and aren't in control. But the gods, the dragons themselves, if you were to go back in time and go to the wars where they were participating on the battlefield, they are just fairly decent sized dragons just going to battle with some good punch. And I was going to make a comment earlier. It's like in Corvair, it's like if you want to go punch the Lord of the Blades in the face, you can, if you can. But he's not a god.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
he is so
No,
powerful that if
not
you
at
do
all.
punch him in the face, you better have the cojones to back it up, or he's going to slice and dice you. So in
That's
this
right.
world, it's the same thing.
Of,
The dragons.
of course, I do just have to, Deep Eberron cut just randomly since I'm here, Keith Baker, say that the Lord of Blades is specific in the very original Eberron. The original idea was actually that we had 3 different levels you could encounter him at, specifically so as a low level character. You could punch
Hmm.
him in the face and he'd still be powerful, but like that he would level up as you leveled up, so he'd always be ahead of you, but that you could punch him in the nose at the start of the game to have that experience.
Right.
Because, like I said, I like the idea of, and I think it's something we don't see enough of in a lot of D&D just campaigns, is that whole recurring villain. And I think that's always the thing that's fun of whether you have seen them before, whether here in like 66, you
Hmm.
sort of build it in, worked it out with at least ahead of time to make it, even if we hadn't met him, you're still getting that sense of an established villain. But to me, that makes it more compelling. And D&D historically has had the problem of it's all about killing things. And
Right.
how do you bring back your villain after a fight because they're going to get killed?
That's right.
So
And good villains have recursion.
right.
Yeah, that was a great question, Big Red. Thanks. The other question I saw on that list there, which is a longer conversation, I'll make it very quick because I think this is funny. So why did the Kickstarter get canceled? There was a myriad of small things, a comedy of errors, we call it, that kind of hit us. Number one, um, the biggest one was that we had attached a bank account to it that was in a different currency, so it would. We were collecting in one, and then it would then transfer into another, and that would cause some substantial loss because then we'd have to transfer it back. So that was the first one. We were like, well, we've launched it. We better see how it goes. It was a little slower than expected, which was fine, but that was because there was a number of misfires on our part on terms of coordination, which we thought was fine as well. But the biggest decision to stop it was that actually a small mistake on our partner's fault, Japan and May. They wanted to change the name of Amaria for their anime version of it, which they've been putting a lot of money and effort into, which we love, for an animized version of the fantasy world of Amaria. And they as a joke said, "Hey, we should call it Animaria because it's like anime," which at first I wasn't really onto, but like a lot of other people on the team were like, "This is really funny. This is really cool." And so I was like, "Okay, yeah, you know what? I think about it. It is the brand change and it is anime. Let's do it." And then I guess while at Essen, Eric Googled Animaria, and
Oops.
it came up as the last. Ready for this? There's a double slap in the face on this one. It is a millennia ago in the fantasy world of Power Rangers. Animaria is Canada,
Wow.
and so it is a
Yeah.
potentially copywritten Power Rangers thing, which is Hasbro.
Wait. You say a millennia ago, so we're talking about the 10th century?
It's
Canada was Amaria?
a millennia in Power Rangers. Animaria is the last bastion of some sort of magical thing, which would be the equivalent of modern day Canada. And it's
All
a
right.
Power Rangers thing, Animaria. It's called the Animarium, with the last bastion
It is the lost kingdom of Animaria, and you know what? I did know that, and I never even really put it together. And I can't
right?
believe that I never even put that together because I obviously know that because working
I
with
was
Power
about to say,
Rangers.
you kind of know a little Power Rangers, I'm led to
But I
believe.
will say that that it wasn't like a big discussion that we had about what the anime version of the book was going to be called because I actually when I saw it I'm like, oh, that's really clever. When I actually saw the Kickstarter announcement, and I'm like, oh, that's a clever way of naming it, and it did seem so familiar to me,
Yes,
but I don't know why I didn't make the connection, and now I feel
right?
terrible for not knowing to
No,
say something.
it's okay. When we found out Eric was having a pretty darn good laugh on the floor of Essen, and I'm like, well, we had enough to probably consider a cancel and a relaunch. We had enough people getting involved that wanted to help us out, and so then let's be honest. I'll admit I didn't expect it to be like $100,000, but I didn't expect it to go as slow as it did. And there was a lot of really interesting people that weren't our usuals that popped in and did some heavy swinging and bought some really high end pledging and threw a lot of money at the dice and stuff. So the price per person was massive, but the amount of people was a little too low. And it's not for trying. We did, like, Adam and Devin put a really strong amount of effort into hitting YouTube influencers, and the yield from that was surprisingly low. The ones that we thought were going to be super low ended up doing very well, and the ones that we thought were going to be gangbusters ended up doing next to nothing for us. And so those were like shocking statistics for us. So we were like, "Oh crap!" But each step of the way, we're like, we'll mitigate it, or it's okay if we don't fund on day one. As long as we hit our goal and make some extra, we'll be good for everyone. And everyone was involved was like, okay, we'll get it done. But then it was just like the Animaria thing was like, I mean, we don't know if it's copywritten, if they have the right to trademark that, or if they've copywritten it. But when you're dealing with Hasbro,
Yeah.
and they also own D&D, and this whole and considering the climate, considering the
Oh, now
climate
they're
of
going to be here.
right? Like, and considering like the climate of the OGL and everything that just happened, I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to step in that ring yet until some research is done. So we just had to make the clever decision to just be like, we got to stop it now. and then regroup, refocus, and relaunch. And all the people that we've gained from that launch hopefully will come back. And if we can hit them all in the first day, we'll hit those algorithms. We missed every algorithm. And I'll let you know this. I used to launch Kickstarters with nothing, and it used to fund really well. You just put it up, but today's Kickstarter climate has changed so dramatically that any Kickstarter's success is behind a massive marketing paywall. And I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, okay. I was not prepared for that level of a marketing paywall. And so I need to refocus on the marketing aspect of it. And like I said, I'm not looking to become the next, Avatar. It would be nice, but I don't think it has the power and the reach right now to make it happen. And even with with Elisa plugging. Oh, by the way, just for the record, Elisa, your link was in the top echelon of people who was successfully backing.
Well, that's nice to hear.
It was nice. It was like Facebook ads, blah blah blah. Elisa Teague. Like, yes, yes.
Oh,
So
I
anyway,
didn't use my specific link. I don't think I
Well,
was
don't
mainly
worry, we'll
just
do it next time.
retweeting.
I love my
Uh,
friends and everybody who follows me and follows what I do. So if any of them are listening right now, then thank you, and I hope you come back for the relaunch.
Yeah. So the question was, what's the relaunch? So currently, we are rebuilding that. And so, yeah, Twitter hurt a lot of our stuff because we did have some Twitter following that didn't quite go through. Um, we have so Devin and Adam are currently rebuilding the site. We have had lengthy discussions, and I'm curious what you guys think of this, actually, including Elisa and Keith, and Devin. Uh, uh, Eric and I had long discussions about splitting it up and having Kickstarter be solely focused on the fantasy, and having the anime Imaria version, whatever that ends up becoming name wise, go onto a Game Found or something and let it be off on its own, potentially at the same time or potentially off time, but letting those two platforms fire at the same time because they're so different in brand feel, even though the mechanics are technically the same. The wording, the descriptions, it's all completely different. The graphics. What do you guys think?
I think that
I
does
uh,
help solidify the story a bit because the main issue I was thinking was presentation wise. From my standpoint, you've got people coming from one side and from the other side all going to the same location, and so you have to present it as if you were pulling people in from either side, and that can make how to do the presentation quite difficult to do it succinctly
Uh
and in a
huh.
way that it make it easy for people to read. I know I was seeing a lot of people who were like kind of a little confused because they had come from the fantasy side, had no idea about the anime, or people coming from the anime side, they had no idea about the fantasy, so they were trying to figure out what was going on, and there were all these options and all this information, and it was all there if they read through it. But I think trying to present it in a way, I've thought of a few ways to do it, but I think presenting it and not having to get around that problem might be an easier way, because we don't know how many people were super interested, went to it, and then got lost in all of the things that were happening and then decided to move away from it. We also don't know how many people came to it because of that interest. So it's difficult to say, but I
Right.
do think that maybe a more solid presentation would help.
Right. Elisa, what do you think?
I agree with that. I mean, obviously bringing two different types of audiences together into one crowdfunding campaign will definitely boost numbers. I did think that the amount of choices when pledging, um, because I myself pledged as well. When going through the different pledges, it started to get a little bit confusing.
Mm-hmm.
I obviously knew the differences in what the two versions would be, but I don't know. I'd have to like think on it honestly. But
It's different,
I
right?
can imagine that maybe anime fans that were coming in may have been turned off by the strict fantasy and vice versa. I don't know.
Well, the I can tell you the statistics right now, and it was about 80-20 fantasy. So
Hmm.
20% of our hits were the anime folk, and 80% was the fantasy
well,
folk.
I mean, but that also makes sense to some degree when I think it's going to come to where the promotions lie. This is where I don't know about your influencers, but I mean,
Hmm.
like the people who are following me are following me for fantasy, not for anime.
Right.
Same.
And so again, it's do you have channels that primarily hit the anime people? And maybe, as I said, that was your influencer angle. But if all your main channels are tied to the fantasy thing, then it makes sense that's where you're going to get most of the people from.
Our influencers were all fantasy based, but all of the Facebook advertising that was done through Japanime was all anime. So
Fair
so
enough.
the traditional advertising market was anime, and we did have some data on anime
Yeah.
links coming in, but they were mainly digital. The digital fans, and there were a lot. I don't think there was very many printed Animaria books, but there was a lot of fantasy stuff. And anybody that was linked to the fantasy books were massive pledges. Like we're talking like they got all the dice, they got it, like they were just like all in, right? So so
All
it was
right,
very
I gotta
interesting.
go.
Okay.
So next time I'll be able to stay longer.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. This is only meant to
it
be
was
half hour
great
anyway.
to see you
I'll
all.
stick on for a
Yeah.
little bit longer.
So,
Thanks, Keith.
all right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye. Who's still around?
Just me, I think.
Are they all gone? I can't see the page.
Yeah, it's just you and me now.
All right, so I guess it's you and I. So you're a little quiet, but yeah. So anyway, that's generally what it
Be
was.
louder.
Yeah, that's generally what it was, and so that's why it took that level of decision to stop the campaign. And I mean, yeah, there's probably, there's I know Adam, and I know I don't want to speak for you, Devin, but you can probably correct or deny this. But there was a level of like you guys were very much trying to fight to keep it going. And I think there's a level of sadness or defeat or fear or embarrassment. And I don't. I mean, I felt worse knowing that there was all these little tiny things that we couldn't have really helped because look at we've never partnered on a Kickstarter like this with anybody. We had two partners that we were coordinating with, and we didn't know it was going to be. And like I said, I've kickstarted things with like no marketing, and it's gangbustered well. I'm not a marketer, and so it was a tactical retreat. Yes, that's exactly it. It was a tactical retreat. Now, and as I was describing this at Essen to a few people who, by the way, are going to help us with the next round, and there are people who've done very well. One of them being the roller crate fella who did 1.2 million for his bag, as he calls it. And he was saying like, look, I sold a bag, and he did really well, but his marketing was spectacular. His ideas, and not saying I need to just go and replicate what he did because that's incorrect as well. But as I was describing, is that as a person who used to fence in fencing, you can't just keep lunging forward. There are many opportunities for you to have to take a step back before you strike the blow. And I think this is just a step back to stop and recalculate the situation and then make the attack properly. When it's going to come back isn't going to be too long because we don't want that momentum to die. It's going to come back uh, because it's going to go up in its own Kickstarter. It's not going to be part of our Linvander. It's going to be considered the World of Amaria. It'll be on its own Kickstarter thread. It can technically run alongside Evil Dead. It can run alongside other things, including the Game Found idea. A few things need to come into play first. First is Eric needs to decide. We need to decide whether we're splitting the editions up. And then once we make that decision, that'll determine whether it's two campaigns running at once, two campaigns running back to back, or whatever it ends up being. And then once that decision is made, we are already rebuilding the site in a way right now that we can submit it for review. And once it gets reviewed, we can get a landing page again, and then we can start driving traffic to the landing page. We're going to step up a bit of a marketing game. We're going to work with a marketing company to help promote and boost it, so we get larger numbers into the Kickstarter to start it off. The other thing that was surprising was the conversion from followers to the original to the day one backing was garbage. So a lot of the people, excuse me, that followed the page from the various sources that we brought in didn't convert. So that's an interesting, or they did convert through different means, like clicking my Facebook link or Devin's Facebook link or whatever. But from what I saw, the conversion notification was very little. In fact, the statistics, which I don't mind discussing, the number one link that won was Lynn Vanders, which was mine. Next to it was Devin, and at one point, Devin, your personal link was ahead of mine because you had some big spenders come in. I don't know what happened, but some people came in and they were like dropping.
Well, so I would have been in the lead, but we found out that if someone uses my link, pledges, and then changes their pledge, it doesn't count as my account anymore. So they actually ended up buying more, but because they had switched it from my link, it pulled it off of my metric. So I might have actually been in the top technically,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Good. Good. So there was there was a couple of heavy swings. I know I had the majority of backs pledges, but I didn't have the big spenders. But I had like a lot of
yes.
individual backers were from the. So it's really cool to see the metrics. I actually find this stuff very fascinating, even though I don't consider myself a marketer, or at least a good one in any way. But we do have a couple things that even Devin doesn't know about yet. But we'll have to talk about that on a private matter before we go public with it. But there is a really interesting angle of attack to come back into this.
Mhm.
I'm hoping we can do this sooner than later. But I don't want to rush it at all. I want to make sure we get some good followership. So stay tuned. I'm hoping that information we'll have decisions made before the end of this week, and then we'll be back up with a launch page sooner than that, and we can really go. Yeah, Kickstarter didn't notify many people at all. There was something off about the day we launched. There were some Kickstarter issues to begin with. I think Kickstarter was having an issue to begin with, but I've launched 30 campaigns in my time, and I've never launched a campaign, and most of these campaigns don't have what's Crooked Moon? What's Crooked Moon?
Crooked Moon was a Kickstarter that Legends of Avantris released. It was a Halloween themed D&D setting book with Halloween themed subclasses and monsters and things like that.
Oh yeah, they did. They crushed it.
They did absolute gangbusters. Yeah.
Yeah, so they squashed us. That's good. Good for. I'm glad that they had a great RPG. It just, I guess, really bad timing on our part. Um, that being said, I kind of suspected that everyone's going to try and squeeze something in October because they want to get it all done for Christmas. But yeah, so we
Yeah.
had a Ryoko's Guide was huge too. Yeah, there's been a number of really big RPGs out there, but these people are dumping tens of thousands of dollars into like online marketing strategy, which is drawing their traffic in. And what people don't realize is that if a campaign does $600,000, they're spending probably a third of it on marketing. And
Mhm.
if you were to compare them by the numbers, our marketing wasn't anywhere near that compared to the spend we were getting, but maybe we should. So we have to start doing that to get numbers in to go by the laws of attrition. I just don't want to. I just don't want to. Maybe I'm just too polite. I just want to spam. You know what I mean with all this stuff. So, um, yeah, the enemy. That's the problem, right? It's like there's a lot to consider when we're there. So, as the content of what's in the Amaria book, I'm borderline arrogant about. I know it's good stuff. And I know people will be impressed with the work that's in there because we care very much about that book. Not saying the others don't, but we have a very I don't know how to describe it. I'm very proud of what's in that book.
I was gonna say I
And
don't think it's arrogance. I think it's pride.
yeah, I mean, I might be saying being arrogant is I'm like I wouldn't be. I would take that book and I would go drop it on a table and say you're welcome because I
Yeah.
think there's some good stuff in there, like really well thought out, outside of the box stuff. And not to say that other games are not like that, but I just know that the quality of the content is good. So that's not what was pushing people away. The price point was exactly what that price point is exactly what the Wizards of the Coast books are at, and we're providing way more for it.
It was
So it's
also
not
cheaper
that
than Crooked Moon, so I
we
don't think it
just
was the price.
the pride comes before the fall, right? The fall's already happened. The pride's right now. I'm already fallen. It's fallen. It's canceled, right? The fall for me was just that I know I'm not a marketer and I don't know how to market. And I don't even know how to hire marketers right now because every marketer I've hired in the past has really not done well by it. And it's I could go to BackerKit or I could go to other places and just pay them thousands of dollars for ad spend, and get an ROI on it, but it's, in the end of the day, I've got to make sure it's the right hit. So yeah, I know if we had launched it, I think we can hit it in November and do well. I also think that we need to not go 30 days and go back to 14. A lot of advice I received from decent marketers in Essen was that Kickstarters for books, like for RPGs, need to be shorter than full-time board game Kickstarters, and that's just going trends. So there were a few things that were going against what I thought logically made sense, and I think we'll do better because when we come back, if the majority of the people come back and swing as hard as they did on day one and coordinate, it's like 3, 2, 1, boom, and then everyone goes and backs. It will hit algorithms that other sites pick up, and those sites will pick those algorithms up and shoot them to the top of their sites, and that gets more eyes organically, and that gets a win across the board. So I think that's one of the big things. So I think we've got to focus heavily on making sure that day one is super gangbuster to get it above the clouds, and then it should go from there. So yeah, so that was the Kickstarter. So that's it. Really, that's where we're at. And so here's hoping, right? Yeah. So any other questions you guys have got about anything? I see there's a few of you guys in there still chatting. I'll take another question or two, and then I think the wrap up is good. Yeah, day one's got a fund. That's the problem. Well, if by splitting the books, the funding goal goes down by half, and that means we would have funded on day one, right? So, or close to it.
Oh yeah, fair.
So, well, hey, I can help you with that, Red. The build out of the Kickstarter is usually not too hard, but how do I start a giant Kickstarter? They're traps. You got to be careful though. They're traps. They are. I mean,
you call it BattleTech mercenaries.
yeah, right. So how did you? How many times did you check your phone in an hour, Devin, when it was live?
Oh, I was checking it every 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's like an addiction. It's like
Dude, I don't even know where time went. Literally 8 hours a day, I was doing nonstop marketing.
Yep.
I was like sending links here, posting ads, sending links here, guilting my friends, doing this, doing that, sending things out there. Yeah, it was crazy.
Right.
It is all consuming.
And people didn't even notice it. It was crazy. You gotta. So I think getting a proper agency that knows how to get that stuff in there. Yeah, right. Like it's crazy. So I think we've got a good restart coming. This isn't the first campaign I've been involved in that canceled and restarted, and did way better on the second round. In fact, there's quite a few campaigns that cancel and restart when they don't have the right momentum at the beginning, and it is about hitching that momentum. So we'll restart it, and the next one, we'll get those little comedy of errors correct, and if it's not as explosive as we want it to be, but it does performs better than the first round, we'll just grind through it. We'll get it done, and we'll see what happens there. So, yeah.
Was it 1% perspiration, 99%? What was it? I forget. Never mind. Ignore me.
Okay.
1% perspiration, 99% perseverance, or something like that.
Yes, perseverance is a big one. I would say a little bit of luck in there too, because we were very unfortunate to have launched when another campaign that probably had a much bigger follower base went and drained money from that, or just took over all the algorithms. That was the big hit, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It took over every algorithm. And it's interesting, these algorithms. Like the Kickstarter is built on a way that the more momentum you gain from the moment you shoot it out is the more sites pick it up, and then that builds more momentum. It's just strange, super strange. But well, first episode's done. I'm gonna upload the second episode and the third episode, and then get the fourth one rendered, and then we'll be up for a couple weeks. And then you guys can watch episode 2 next week. Hopefully, we'll have you all back watching. It was good. It was a nice show.
Heck yeah.
Yep. Okay, well, we've got a hell of a week ahead of us. There is no Deadliest Dungeon this Wednesday. Or next Wednesday.
Yeah, because we're away next Wednesday.
Yeah, so this Wednesday coming up.
Maybe we'll do an impromptu Wednesday stream. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, we got to figure that out, but we also have to tear down for Gamehole Con.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, so we got to prepare for Gamehole Con. We're going to be back in Seattle shooting Evil Dead 2. videos on the weekend, and then we're off to GameholeCon, which is going to be a awesome time. The entire Fate of Legends crew will be there, so we can reconnect, which will be a lot of fun. And then we'll be at Gamehole. And then after that, it's going to be back to the regular schedule. So the next Deadliest Dungeon will be. This is also, we also knew this was Sam's busy time of the year as a landscaper. This is the hardest part for the 25th. Yeah, so we'll be back on the 25th, and then we'll be basically good to go all through November with the Deadliest Dungeon until PAX Unplugged. So, yeah, there we go. Okay, well, thank you guys for watching. It was a lot of fun. I think we'll try and do this little chat after dark again. Although next week I don't think that's possible because I'll be in Seattle and you'll be driving home from Montreal.
Yeah. Fun times.
Yeah. All right. Thanks guys for watching. We will see you soon.